Thank you so much, Kurt Rocks, and welcome to my presentation on teaching math with OneNote. I'm super excited to have you all here, and I want to thank you all for joining me in this great event. OneNote has completely transformed the way I teach. It has changed not only my professional life as a teacher, it has definitely changed my life in many ways. So I want to tell you a bit of my personal story on how OneNote has come into my life and how it transformed the way I teach mathematics. Back in 2009, I was teaching adults in the evening school and preparing them for the final exams for 4 hours a week. I was using a blackboard and chalk, but also an overhead projector and my favorite math app GeoGebra to show animations. I had to sit there and look inside the projector for hours and hours, and I literally went blind every now and then. In addition, everything I wrote down was lost after the lessons and had to deal with the different kind of tools every time in different places. I thought there must be something better, something more powerful, more useful. To collect all the things I created and produced in these 4-hour lessons. A tool where I can collect all kinds of things, handwritten notes, worksheets, even interactive applets from the internet, and especially GeoGebra files. I tried many different things, like taking pictures, making movies, set up a dedicated blog for my students. But finally, there was only one solution for me to get my handwriting with all the formulas and equations into a digital environment. I bought myself a very expensive tablet PC with a stylus and started using Microsoft Journal back then. But I clearly remember the day when I got my hands onto OneNote for the first time. It's that kind of memory you will have forever in your mind. Back then, it was a free copy of OneNote 2010 and it blew my mind. I quickly realized that this tool will transform the way I organize myself, and more, it will transform the way I teach. I soon started not only to collect my lessons within OneNote, but also share it with my students. At that point, I truly felt the power of OneNote. And since then, I have spent every single day teaching with OneNote. At the same time, I started teaching maths and physical education at the Hack. This is a business college in my hometown. There are about 700 students and 80 teachers there, aged between 14 and 19 years. And the school is well known for its progressive methods and the perfect technical equipment. As a Microsoft Showcase school, we can completely rely on Office 365, and the school provides our students with about 300 PCs in many PC labs. Since 2010, I'm teaching completely digital with a pen-based tablet PC and a projector in my classes. Last year, I implemented a dedicated one-to-one tablet class where every student has his or her own Microsoft Surface tablet, all based on OneNote class notebooks. But I will come back to that later. If you want to know more about me and my life, feel free to visit my blog or follow me on Twitter and Facebook. So this is my first time ever I give a pre-recorded talk, and therefore I think you might want to hear what this will be all about and what you can expect from this presentation. So here is a short overview. The first topic I will cover will deal with tools for mathematics. I want to show you my tools that I am using in my classes. These tools are some cool built-in OneNote features, especially for math. But I also want to cover my 2 most important apps for teaching math in a 21st century style. The second topic will be about setup. By that, I mean how I set up my teaching world concerning hardware and software. This is very important to understand the third topic. Last but not least, I want to give you some first-hand insights into my classroom. I'm going to show you some of my teachers' work, but most important, some examples of my students' work. But before we dig deeper into these three topics, let me show you a short video that was created last year. It showcases some of my students' work, and you can get a good idea on how we are using OneNote in and outside the classroom.
Hi, my name is Michelle and I'm a student. I've always loved learning new subjects and finding new ways of doing things. These are my friends Anja and Fabian. We like to work together on projects in class and hang out after school. Then there's Mr. Söser, our teacher. He's great and really helps us understand our projects, especially math. I used to find math one of the hardest subjects, but now we use Office 365 from Microsoft and a cool app called GeoGebra. Even though we all work in different ways, with Office 365 and GeoGebra, we found a perfect solution for making math more exciting. Like this new project we're working on. First, our teacher Mr. Söser created a hub to show us what the project was about and get us started. Then, because we can all work independently and share our work at the same time, we each focused on our own interests. Take me. I wanted to find out if there is a good explanation why Matthias, our fastest runner, is also the best jumper, so I'm working on the correlation between jumping and running. Using GeoGebra, I can easily analyze and visualize the data and share with my classmates on OneNote. Anja, on the other hand, is interested in architecture, so she wanted to measure the size of our school building. She used GeoGebra to apply trigonometry to real-life objects, and it's really interesting to see what she shares through OneNote. And Fabian, he wanted to find out more about his favorite game, so he used GeoGebra to model a real football. There's all kinds of letters and numbers and some pretty hard math, but it looks great. He's always sharing what he's learned so we can understand it too. Working this way means we can concentrate on our individual ideas, but easily share our work together in class, and Mr. Söser can check our space in OneNote to see how we are doing and give individual feedback at any time. Another thing about OneNote and GeoGebra is that you can use it on any device. Some students use the school computers, others have laptops, some use tablets, and I can even use it on my smartphone. Thanks to Microsoft, OneNote and GeoGebra, maths definitely isn't as scary as it used to be. It can even be fun.
I hope with this little video you get an idea of how me and my students are using OneNote in and outside my classroom. Now let's have a closer look at my tools I am using for teaching and learning. Over the past years I've come up with different workflows in OneNote, and thanks to the steady improvement of OneNote, I get more and more features especially created for mathematics. Here I want to emphasize on just a few tools that I find very useful and powerful. The first thing I want to introduce is the built-in calculator in OneNote. Many OneNote users are not aware that you can do mathematics right on any OneNote page. You just have to type in your equation, followed by an equal sign, and hit space. Boom, there you have your answer. You can do basic calculations, but also some more advanced stuff like square roots or calculating the sine of an angle. These are the supported arithmetic operators you can use, and here you have some math and trigonometry functions. I rely a lot on this feature in OneNote, as I don't have to carry around a calculator with me all the time. In the next demo, I want to show you how easy it is to create mathematical expressions in OneNote. If you're working a lot with mathematical expressions like me, you know that it is very time-consuming to get a really beautiful math equation with a mouse and a keyboard input. But thanks to OneNote, you can transform your handwriting into beautiful formatted equations. All you need is write down your expression with your digital stylus, just like this, for example. Then select your input, select Draw, Ink to Math, and then you can transform your handwritten notes into beautiful math ML format. Here we go. Very easy and so powerful. This feature recognizes a lot of mathematical expressions, even my bad handwriting. If you are doing mistakes, if you're making mistakes, just erase the equation, and then you can transform any handwriting into beautiful MathML format. Hey math teachers out there, you have to have a look at this powerful math add-in for the OneNote Windows 10 app. There is a new math add-in for the OneNote Windows 10 app. This little feature is really powerful, and I personally think that this will transform the way our students will learn math in the future completely. I've prepared some examples here to show you the magic. So let's take this equation, and I select it and click on Mathematics, and then you can see not only to transform this equation into beautiful MathML format, you can choose an action. And here, for example, I could choose this action to get the right solution for this term. So that's really powerful because OneNote Mathematics is doing all the math behind this and doing all the calculations behind this small equation. So let's get to the next. Here we go. I get an equation, and now I can choose it to solve for x, and as you see, I quickly get the solution for x, but the best thing is yet to come. You can click here and you could show and you can see what the solution looks like, not only what the solution looks like, but also the way to get the solution. So that's pretty powerful. I think that will completely transform the way students will learn mathematics, because they get an explanation on how to solve these equations. I have some further examples. This does work on other more powerful equations and more complex equations. For example, a quadratic equation. You could just let's see how this equation is solved, and that's pretty useful for explaining things. But you can also do other things. For example, I would just select this thing, and here I can choose to differentiate this equation, and not only for solution for equations, I can take this and differentiate it and see how it's done. That's pretty awesome. As you could see, there's a really powerful computer algebra system behind this add-in, and it really works like charm. For example, I can solve this for b, and you can see in the solution that this is really powerful and it makes no mistakes. Other things you could do with this pretty little thing is you can not only solve equations, you can factor it or expand these things. So that's pretty useful for teaching maths. One last thing, one last example. I will select this and show you the power of this add-in. So in my opinion, this is pretty useful, and I really love to teach maths this way, because not only I get the solution to an equation, but I can rely on the explanation of a computer-based algebra system, and so the students can focus on the real applications of mathematics, not only on calculation, not only doing calculations, but focus on why they are doing it and how they are doing it. Okay, this is not related to OneNote at first sight. But did you know that you can embed Excel into OneNote? So here is another tool that I use quite often in my math lessons. As I teach statistics and financial mathematics, I'm very happy that I can rely on Microsoft Excel for a lot of calculations, and especially for creating charts and graphs. And the best thing is that I can embed it into OneNote too. I've prepared a short demo file here by choosing Insert and Spreadsheet. Here I can choose if I want to embed an existing file or if I want to start from scratch with a new Excel spreadsheet. As you can see, here we have some data sets about shoe sizes and the heights of male students. Let's analyze this by using Excel. I simply click the Edit button, and boom, I have fired up a fully blown and powerful Excel spreadsheet. Let's say I just want to quickly analyze the correlation between these two data sets. So I will create an XY chart with a trend line. Just do some formatting. Okay, choose a different design. And here we go. I will add a trend line. Okay, and here we are done. Maybe I should format here too. Okay, I will give it a nice blue color. And here we go. The coolest thing is that when I hit save, the spreadsheet automatically updates in the OneNote page. This is awesome, isn't it? So I can provide my students with data in Excel spreadsheet, and we can do a lot of calculations and charts with this powerful tool right from within OneNote. My #1 app since 15 years is GeoGebra. This interactive and dynamic graphical math tool provides me and my students with all features for doing mathematics in the 21st century style. But GeoGebra is far more than just a math tool. It was designed with didactics in mind, and so I use it to explain complex mathematical concepts. And the best thing is, it is completely free and open source. There's a big community that share their applets and work on GeoGebra too. I want to give you just two brief examples of what you can do with GeoGebra. Feel free to visit geogebra.org to get more infos and see the stunning work of the community. So let's have a look at the first example. Let's say I want to calculate the integral between the two extrema of a function. I simply write down my function in the input bar, and I get it graphed instantly. Then I calculate the extrema by using powerful mathematical comments. Here we go. The same thing with the integral. And here we go. Everything is visualized. So in a few steps I have solved the problem. But the best thing is that I can change the construction and the calculations adapt instantly. Let me show you. That's so powerful and pretty cool. Just to demonstrate another example, I want to show you a didactical feature. I want to show my students the basic idea about integrals. So I create the lower sum of this function. And now I'm able to quickly show them the idea of the integral by summation of rectangles. Math has never been so easy. So here is another classic problem. Let's say I want to construct the circumcircle of a triangle. I can easily use the tools provided by GeoGebra and make the correct construction. Here we go. And guess what? The coolest thing is that it is automatically calculated, and I can see it in the algebra view. And the whole construction is dynamic. So if you change the triangle, everything follows and updates automatically. This is cool, isn't it? There are far more tools and features like a spreadsheet or a computer algebra system or even a probability calculator. So everything is linked so that you can not only calculate but also create powerful applets to demonstrate complex and mathematical concepts. There's so much more. I highly recommend to you to go over to the GeoGebra.org website and have a look at this mathematical universe of dynamic and interactive resources. I have to say I simply love GeoGebra. So how does GeoGebra come together and merge with Onenote? Most time I use or create a GeoGebra applet, I simply take a screenshot and put it onto the Onenote page. This is pretty useful as I can write down explanations onto it and collect all the informations for my students in one single Onenote page. But far more cool is to embed GeoGebra right into your Onenote page. Yes, you can do this. You just have to take the link from a GeoGebra applet stored on GeoGebra Tube. This is the open and free platform for hundreds of thousands of high-quality applets. Paste your link into a Onenote page, and then you can fire up an interactive math and play with math dynamically. This is so awesome. So after this short overview of the tools I'm using, I want to give you further insights into my world. I want to show you how I set up my educational world and get you a brief overview of my teacher environment. Concerning the hardware, I'm using a Surface Pro 4 and connected wirelessly to the projector in my classrooms. This gives me the possibility of an interactive whiteboard where I can write down things and the students can follow my explanations. In addition, the wireless transmission gives me the freedom to walk around and teach from every place in the classroom. I want to emphasize on the importance of the stylus, not only because I can write with it on my surface in my own handwriting. Teaching maths heavily relies on handwriting inputs, as the formulas and equations are essential. But having a stylus is more than just a digital pen. I can use it not only for annotations, but also for sketches and markups. And even more, I use lots of stylus-based gestures for shortcuts, and I have remapped the stylus buttons to get the most out of this magic wand. So I'm not depending on a mouse or a keyboard in my classroom. Since 2009, I've been working with pen-enabled devices now, and I will never ever get back to a touch-only device. As I've already mentioned, I implemented a dedicated tablet class at the HAG Steyr last year. Me and some other colleagues wanted to empower every student in a one-to-one environment with the possibilities a digital device can bring. So we all want to transform learning and teaching in a holistic way and get the best of the 21st century technology into our students' hands. In 2014, 28 students started to use their own pen-enabled devices in and outside the classroom. We have decided on our ideas and needs that we want to use Surface tablets, and thankfully the parents got on board to buy these devices and empower their children to learn with this digital tool. It is truly amazing what the students are doing with these devices and how this has had an impact on teaching and learning. Speaking of a learning management solution and software, I completely rely on Onenote class notebooks. As our school is a Microsoft Showcase school, we are trying to get the most out of the Office 365 environment. The Onenote class notebooks are the central hub for every lesson and every teacher. I'm using it from the very first day, and I'm still thrilled with all the possibilities and the ongoing development. I want to give you a short overview of how I set up my class notebooks for my students. You're probably familiar with the Onenote class notebook organization and setup, but I have changed some minor things to make it work for my purpose. There is the welcome section with some other topic related sections, the collaboration space, which is empty by now, the content library, which is completely empty, and I'm just keeping it so that the Onenote class notebook add-in is working. And there is a teacher section, teacher only section, where I put in my preparations and other things like assessments or parents contacts. And last but not least, there are the student sections where my students put in all the work. Let's go back to the welcome section. First of all, I got rid of all the Microsoft stuff that is automatically put into a new class notebook. I exchanged these information pages with the welcome page. So second, I always put in a quick overview about the topics we will cover in this school year's lessons. I think this is very useful for my students, as they can get a short glimpse of what we are up to in this school year. And for me, it's very important to have some kind of roadmap, so I won't forget any important topics, and I can plan every lesson with a big picture in my mind. Then I always create a calendar for planning purpose. I quickly put in all the lessons and homeworks or other assignments, so every student can see what was going on and what his duties are. Lastly, I've created a page with all the information for the students on how they will get the marks for this course. This is also very important for me, so that everybody can see right from the beginning of the course how to achieve a good grade. There is also a dedicated Excel spreadsheet which is distributed to every student section so that he or she can put in his points and get a quick overview on his or her learning activities. I'm pretty proud of this as it automatically calculates the grades for each student and provides him or her with an infographic of his or her achievements. So this is a short overview of my class notebooks. Let's get into some further details with the next video. Now that I have given you some insights into my world, into how I set up my teacher's environment, I think you got the idea of how my work style looks like. But let's get into the action and get into my classroom, so you can get some real-life examples. Since 2010, I'm working with Onenote in my classroom, and I have steadily improved some workflows to adapt to the needs of my students. Over the period, I have collected tons of material within Onenote, and this alone is a cool feature that I can quickly come back and find all the worksheets or assignments to modify it and reassign it to my newer students. So the following examples are just a few highlights of my life as a Onenote math teacher and do not cover all the things I have done in the past. But you will sure get the point on how Onenote has transformed the way I teach math. First of all, my students and I use Onenote for digital note-taking. This is pretty basic and has no added value, except that all the notes are kept in one place and can't be lost anymore. Although we have a lot of digital tools, I find it very important that some math is still done by hand. I also try to do some sketchnoting within my classes, so that my students get some kind of enhanced overview about a topic. These are pretty basic sketch notes that just evolve out of a lesson, and some others where I spend more time on preparing. On a next level, we use Onenote to collect and document our workflow. Here you can see an example where one of my students has screen clipped her work from an interactive lesson on the web. So she had not to copy her achievements by hand into her textbooks. This is very useful for me as a teacher because I can see her solutions and her work and give feedback. Talking about feedback, this example shows the work in progress of a student who has tried to model a glass bottle with mathematical tools. As this work continued over weeks, I could provide feedback to her with the inbuilt record audio feature of Onenote. So she could get an instant feedback on her ideas and solutions. So in this case, Onenote acts like a portfolio, where the whole learning process is depicted. As I told you at the beginning, it is very important to me to have both worlds, the analog and the digital, in one place. Onenote, and especially the inking feature, enables me and my students to do math the traditional way. And this is very important, as math is always work in progress. It is important to see how the process evolves in front of the learner's eye. But on the other hand, we can quickly rely on digital tools. In this case, to get a quick drawing with GeoGebra, for example. I want to take the best of both worlds, the analog and the digital, to create a 21st century approach to mathematics. This creates a seamless workflow. I clearly remember this lesson pictured here, where I ask my students, what's the size of our school building? I came up with a picture of our school in Onenote, and soon they realized we had to measure the angles. So we stepped outside the classroom and tried to get some ideas on how to measure the angles. We took pictures of our guesses and sketches, put it into the Onenote page, and went back to the classroom. There we used GeoGebra to measure the correct angles and did the calculations within Onenote. So this is just an amazing example where you could see the power of using OneNote, to have one place to collect all things from the analog and the digital world. Here you can see the same assignment done perfectly by one of my students. She wanted to measure the length of her room and documented all her work in OneNote. Pretty cool. As I am a big fan of the flipped or inverted classroom model, I often tell my students they have to watch an explanation video to prepare for the next lessons. There are so many great math teachers out in the world that are creating amazing videos, so I can make use of their examples or I create some videos on my own. Thanks to the embed feature of OneNote, it is very easy and convenient to provide these explanation videos to my students. Media is seamlessly integrated into my math lessons. But also the other way around works perfectly. Math is so much more than just calculating. It is about thinking, about creating. So we teachers often forget how hard a student has tried to get to the solution and what he has done to achieve the goal. In this example, I told my students to record their thoughts and explanations while they were solving the problems. For the first time ever, I could hear my students think. That's a completely different way of learning and teaching mathematics. It's a higher level of understanding math if a student has to explain what he calculated and why he has used a certain technique. Not only video brings life to my math lessons. As I've shown you, I'm in love with GeoGebra and I use it within my notebooks to let students play around with math, to get their hands interactively onto math concepts. I try to give visual help to them and created thousands of applets with GeoGebra to show my students the magic of math. For me, one of the best feelings as a teacher is when the students find out the solution of a problem all alone. If he just worked through his way thanks to the useful tools and finally gets the big aha moment when he shouts out, "I got it!" And this brings me to my final example, an interactive learning lesson about statistics and regression that I've created with self-paced learning students on my mind. You can see some explanation stuff with videos and files, but also very low-level worksheets. My students can work in their pace and they all have everything in one place. But this was just the beginning. Back then in 2009, when I first got my hands on OneNote, I soon started to dream about an interactive and digital math workbook for every student, where everything is kept in one place and all supplying materials are stored. I imagined a digital textbook that is far more than just flicking through a web page. And this textbook has so many powerful inbuilt features, but you can also make use of all the analog and digital world out there. Right now, in 2016, I am completely convinced, more than ever, that OneNote has not only transformed the way I teach mathematics, it is going to transform the way millions of students will learn mathematics in the future.